So often people ask me or tell me that the reason that they find English so confusing is because letters make multiple sounds. Letters can make, let's say, so many sounds. So this is what they find confusing. They're like, why? Why? Because they're silent letters. Those confuse them. Because different sounds can be made by different letters. What else? Letters. So these are things that bother people or confuse them. They also tell me, what's the other? Oh, there are exceptions that they have to remember. Those are frustrating. The schwa ones are like, but what? Schwa vowels? So here's the thing, schwa vowels is like the word president. Oh, this doesn't say it says You're like, why are all these uhs showing up everywhere? So people are like, it's so confusing because of all these things. So let me share with you how I process English and these letters and why I don't find these things as annoying or confusing. Letters and words, the spoken letters, words, or rather print, really represent or they represent and they really encapsulate, right? They contain, they help us express humanity. So I'm like, you have to maybe get a different lens. Get a different lens. So through this thing called print, we get to experience and express this thing called humanity. So when you think about humanity, humanity is biodiverse. We're part of nature. So in nature, there's all this diversity, right? There's this diversity of animals, of plant, fungi, just hundreds and thousands and millions of variations within the species and just the living world. And so I'm like, when I start to think about letters being a part of humanity and humanity being diverse, I cannot expect it to be standard because humans are not standard. And also, our experiences are not standard. And so, when I think about even just one person, right? If you meet me, so my name is Nikolai, and my writing on these boards is really hard, but this is my name. But then, if you meet people from when I was growing up, from like my neighborhood, they would call me, or they do call me Nico. So in my neighborhood growing up, if you meet people who meet me, like if I go back to my neighborhood, my old neighbors will call me Nico. Nico, ¿cómo estás? Nico, how are you doing? Nico. This was my nickname in that neighborhood all of my life. And so in my neighborhood, this was what I was referenced at. And to this day, when I'm in my neighborhood, people, old neighborhood, this is what they would call me. I also probably act a little bit differently around the people in my neighborhood because it's a different context. So there's that, right? As I have gotten older and have taken the role of teacher, not just to my children, but to many children over time, um, my identity has shifted and I am Mama Nikolai. And not so many young people in my community and in my client base and that I have taught, and I have clients now that they have been around, they're teenagers or have even graduated, and I taught them when they were little, and now when they approach me, they call me Mama Nikolai. Some call me Miss Nikolai. The older I get, the more people call me Mama Nikolai. But some kids and some people call me Miss Nikolai. This is part of my identity, right? So this is part of my identity now, and my clients and my community. Now I'm still Nikolai, right? But I am also Nico, and I am also Mama Nikolai, and I am also Miss Nikolai. I'm all those. And how I act and my role in these people's lives is different than these people's lives, right? Now, my brother called me Nikki. So people that know me through my brother and over time, this is what they will call me, Nikki. And my sixth grade teacher, Miss Jobs, took it upon herself to also call me Nikki, and without my consent. I used to correct her all the time. But the people from my middle school all learned to call me Nikki. So if you came into my life and you knew me kind of through my brother, he was the grounding of this nickname, or through my middle school, and I still have friends with people from middle school. Some of them went to high school with me. Then you would call me Nikki. How I acted with my brother and around my brother, my big brother, who is no longer with us, but was different, right? So this was another part of my identity. And the people from my high school, my middle school, remember a different person. And when I ran into them, I become a part of that. It's still here. So this was Miss Job's doing. If you met me in college, you call me Nick because that's what I called myself. That is what I refer to as myself. So most people call me Nick in college. So if you met me from undergrad or grad school, you would call me Nick. When I'm around my mother, when I am around my children, and when I am with my partner and friends, I act differently. Most of the time when I'm with my partner and most of my friends, I talk a lot. Here, I play more of a calm, supportive role, and I let my children shine. And my mother has a really, really, really larger than life personality, and I'm around her, I'm pretty silent, and I let her shine. And so this is just me. So I know that around different people in a different context, when I am socially with like my soccer moms, I act one way. Socially, soccer mom group, I have one personality. But professionally, because as a soccer mom, I am no expert. I am just watching and just learning and picking up, right? Professionally, as a seasoned veteran, I know what I'm talking about and I have an expertise and I carry myself differently, right? So, yes, expert. So, there's a difference here and difference here. So, I know that if I myself can have many names, identities, voices, spaces, etc., so can A, and so can C, and so can F, and so can these two. I know that I have friends that help me say things that I wouldn't say. I know that I have friends that help me sometimes be a little more quiet, a little more demure, a little more cutesy. So, right, this is the story. These print letters are the story that help us express humanity and the expansiveness of us, the expanses of our humanity. And so instead of saying, I need you to be fixed, I need you to do one thing, I'm not looking to A to do one thing. I'm looking at A to be herself. And when A makes different noises, I say you are expansive, like me. And you know what we have to do with people and how they go from being difficult and unknown and challenging. You know how we get from being here with people to being at ease with them. You know how we get from this to this with people is we have to be relational. Sometimes you're like, that person is so difficult, or I don't understand that person, or I don't understand their perspective, but it's because I don't know them. As we become relational with people, we have greater ease. We get to know people. We get to know their background. We extend grace. We extend empathy. We understand where to put them and what to call them. And so when I think about letters and how they act, right? When I think about letters and how they act, I think, how can we get to know them? How can we get to know them and be more relational? How can we learn the exceptions? Because you know what? Sometimes I have my schedule and it's perfect. And then a concert will come up and I'm like, here's a concert or an event. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to rearrange my schedule because this is an exception. This artist doesn't come to town that often. I have to remember that there's an exception and I have to make space in my calendar for it. Or I could be doing things a certain way, and then something happens to my child, and they're like, "Mom, that's not how I do it," right? My children show me that I have to make exceptions in order to be in a relationship with them. I thought I was going to do it one way, but now I'm in a relationship with my children and I have to make exceptions. And so I don't get frustrated at the exception because I'm in a relationship, right? So the solution to understanding this language that we have to have mastery of, because we want to have mastery of the language, mastery of this tool rather of print. We want to have mastery of this tool because it helps us expand, expand and express our humanity and others in the human condition, right? This is a powerful tool. It's so powerful. We can write, we can write entire new worlds. We can write policy. We can play with ideas. When I think about the legacy of many other people that we look up to, people like Frederick Douglass, for example, right? When he was writing and exploring and orating, right? When he was saying his speeches and preparing them, he was describing freedom in a world where he was not free, right? He was writing new worlds before they happened. That's the power of print. That's the power of print. So we want to have mastery of this tool. In order to have mastery of this tool, here's a tool, and so that we can gain power, creative power, we have to be relational. Rather than say, I need you to be one thing, if I needed you to be one thing, I could not create new worlds. I cannot create new worlds with a fixed tool. It does not happen. I cannot do this. If this is what I want to do, I cannot use a fixed tool. Only an expansive tool. Only an expansive tool would allow me to make and create new worlds. And this is what I want. And so rather than be frustrated by the complexity and the biodiversity of the language, of print, of the tool, I commit to getting to know her. I commit to being relational. I commit to my curiosity. I wonder what E is doing in this word and why. Here's the word ocean. Look at this. The C is making the sh sound. Why? Because I thought when it was next to the E vowel, it will make a S sound. Why is it making sh? What is that? And then I noticed that is next to this ending. And things happen when endings, when when the C is around some endings, things happen. So I commit to being relational. I commit to my curiosity. I commit to my study. I commit to my practice. I commit to these things so that I can have mastery of the tool, so that it will give me access to expansiveness, to greatness, to beauty, to art, to power, to change, to dreams, to others. And this is why we're here. We are here not only to learn to read, we're here in commitment of that expansiveness of each other. So next time you get stressed and you think, man, this is difficult, remember this chat.